Hello and welcome here on Token Venture Capital TV. My name is Javier and I'll be your host for today. Like every session, we bring you the innovation, technology, and solutions you want to hear about, and you get to hear it directly from the CEOs or the co-founders of the project. And also remember, you're always welcome to post your questions or comments right there in the chat box. But before we move on to the interview, as a reminder, you can always see our previous shows and content by visiting token.com/VCTV/shows. And as an important reminder, anything mentioned here is not any type of financial advice. Please do your research before making any decision. It's your choices and your responsibility. And with that said, I'm very glad to introduce to our guest, Andrew. Andrew from Crowd for Angels. Welcome, Andrew. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Xavier. Thank you for having me today.
Great, fantastic. Andrew, I was reviewing a bit your website. We have a lot of questions prepared. And also to our viewers, once again, you are able to post your questions online right there in the chat box. Andrew, let's start with a little bit with the basics first. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and the team behind the project?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm Andrew Adcock. I'm the CEO and one of the founding team at Crowd for Angels. We are an FCA regulated crowdfunding platform based here in London, United Kingdom. And the company basically helps startups or young companies raise capital for their projects, whether that's sort of £50,000 to get off the ground or £1 million for a little bit further along in building whatever they need. The team behind it is a mix of social media marketers, accountants, solicitors, etc., that basically can provide a structure and framework around these startups. So if, for instance, if your weakness is accounting, well, we'll have a chartered accountant for that. If your weakness is social media marketing, we can put you in touch with our marketing team. But the end goal is to raise funds for the company and assist them on their fundraising journey. So it's not just once and one time only. Many of the companies that fundraise with us, they might do it 3 or 4 times through stages of their life cycle.
Great. That sounds really interesting. Now, let's talk a little bit about the market you are in because our viewers might have a confusion. Can you please specify what's the difference between your company involved in crowdfunding and another company that would be involved in venture capital?
Yes, certainly. So venture capital is first and foremost usually for higher ticket items. It usually looks at £2 million plus, and you can really get into the tens of millions for those larger transactions. There are a few venture capital firms that will do smaller ticket items, but they really focus on that high ticket value, but they also focus on high net worth individuals. So the minimum sort of investment you could look at is sort of £10,000 or £100,000 as an individual. A crowdfunding platform is designed to democratize the model by allowing people to invest as little as £10 in a company. We actually have a minimum of £25. So rather than having, say, 10 people invest £100,000 to get £1 million, we might have 1,000 people invest £100 to reach the same target. And that's how crowdfunding primarily works. But what you also get, which is rather unique in a crowdfunding model, is you get an audience, you get a crowd, you get an audience, you get this customer base, if you will, these brand advocates that when they invest in your business, they're not just doing it because they want the financial return. Absolutely, that's something that they'll be looking for. But they'll also be looking to interact with the business, support the business, whether there's a reward or not, etc. I mean, a lot of the companies that I've invested in via our platform and other crowdfunding platforms, I might add, I've done it because I have a passion for either that industry or that company. One of my recent investments was into a space company because, well, I love Asimov and everybody who likes Asimov wants to go to space. And so why not throw a couple of £100 into the pot and support that company on its journey. So that's one of the key differences. But I think as well, it's also a mentality. A very young company, someone who's got an idea or a beta app, for instance, can't usually approach a VC, or the VC's doors will be shut. Whereas they can approach a crowdfunding platform. There's really no difficulty in going right now to my website, registering to raise funds, and putting a pitch out there for somebody to invest in. And I think that's the difference now. And I think, crowdfunding and blockchain, or it sort of goes hand in hand. It's not controlled by middlemen as such. There's a bit more freedom to it. There's a bit more democratization to it. And it just allows people to open the doors, open the gates, and get involved.
Okay, several questions here. The first one, currently under Crowd for Angels, how many projects do you have?
Well, I mean, we funded somewhere in the region of about 80.
Wow.
But the live ones, we usually have 3 or 4 per month going live at any one time. There's a number in private mode. We'd hope to get that number higher, and there's certainly larger crowdfunding platforms and there's smaller crowdfunding platforms. But yeah, we have a revolving door, if you will. The process for a company is that they might take a few weeks to build their pitch before going live. They tend to spend anywhere up to 2 months raising that capital before being live. And slightly different to other platforms is we are pro blockchain. So we accept blockchain projects onto our platform, we accept foreign companies onto our platform, and we accept crypto as a form of payment for investments into projects as well. And I think that's very different because it brings down the international barriers. If you're a person in Australia and you want to invest £25 in a company and actually get some shares for it, you could do that with Crowd for Angels and avoid the expensive charges of the banks.
Yeah, and this, what you're saying, comes exactly right in time from one of the questions of our viewers that we received, and I'm going to post it here from Edo. And the question is, do you have any plans to attract non-crypto investors to join your project? Because the success of a project attracts more investors who haven't yet entered the crypto world. What are the plans to raise awareness about your project in the non-crypto space?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Edo, and thank you for asking it. Actually, Crowd for Angels started off by targeting non-crypto investors. We made the swap in 2014 to start launching blockchain projects, and it wasn't until 2016 did we start accepting crypto payments. So we spent 2 years, if you will, just primarily focusing on these non-crypto investors. And a lot of the work that we do today targets traditional retail investors, those who are looking for an ISA here in the UK. I know that's not available across the world. And those sort of mums and dads who are looking to back projects, if you will. It's a bit of a blend. What we're trying to do is take a blockchain product and introduce that to what we would class as traditional retail investors, or you class them as non-crypto investors, and show them the benefits that these projects have. And the reason why we try and do that is because as a regulated entity, I believe we offer a certain level of trust. We go through an extensive due diligence. There's a team here, there's phone numbers here, there's people you can speak to. And I think that's what we're trying to provide to these non-crypto users, is to say, hey, look at this crypto project. Don't be scared because it's a word you don't know. Don't be scared because it could be anywhere. But look at the team, look at who's behind it, look at the project, look what it offers to the ecosystem, and then start to believe in it. There has been a lot of help, of course. I mean, if you look at the prices of various cryptos, Bitcoin, etc., over the past few years, they have been, I wouldn't say steadily rising, they've been rising significantly over that period of time, which does convert a lot of non-crypto individuals into crypto individuals and brings their awareness to the table. But as well, the projects themselves have matured considerably. And you're starting to see now, whereas in the ICO stage, it was an idea, is those ideas are starting to become realities. There are bridges in place, there's stable coins worth tens of billions of pounds, there's companies that are delivering real world solutions, and we can start demonstrating that to non-crypto crypto holders. But it's that element of trust, and it's trying to, how would you say, ensure that the individual believes that the company, the individual, and the project exists. If we can cross that bridge, then you're halfway to winning that battle. And that's something I think Crowd for Angels is doing, is we're providing a layer of trust. We're providing that assurance that the non-crypto users can look at. As well, I should also add to that, we also had our own token, the Angel token, that we provided as a reward token to individuals on our platform. And that was also to look at converting non-crypto users to crypto by giving them something free. In doing so, we've told them to go open an Ethereum wallet. We've sent them some tokens and they can do as they please with it. But by doing that, they've educated themselves. They've had to learn how to get an Ethereum wallet. What is a seed word? Where should I store my cryptos? What do I need to send something, etc. And it's that educational piece that I think
I was not aware.
as well.
I was not aware that you had your own token. Okay, that came as a surprise. Great, because I have questions, and there's one question from our audience as well about the token. But just as a recap, Andrew, and for our viewers and for myself to understand, so the projects that can come to you, they can be related or not related to blockchain, right?
They can be both, yes. So we do have traditional projects, a property fundraise, and we have crypto-related projects. Crypto Police, funnily enough, were one of them a couple of years ago that I was very smitten with, I must admit.
And the other side, the investors, they can be the traditional investors and invest pounds, fiat currency, or they can invest with crypto as well.
Yes. And what you tend to find is the traditional fiat investors are generally based here in the UK because we're regulated here, whereas the non-traditional, the crypto investors, if you will, they're more based around the world, and they choose to just invest because they're interested in the projects.
Okay, so for example, myself being in Hungary, right, I would like to invest in one of these projects. Then you would recommend that I rather invest in blockchain with a digital currency?
I think it's just easier. I'll give a prime example. We had an Australian gentleman who wanted to invest £100, and this is one of the reasons we brought blockchain into the model. He wanted to invest £100. He sent it via a bank. We received it 5 days later, minus £15. So now his investment's only £85. Unfortunately, it didn't fundraise, so we had to return the funds back to him. By the time he'd received it back, he only had £70, as now the £15 has gone again. So he's actually lost £30 just in a opportunity cost. A few months later, when we'd introduced the payment gateways for crypto and he paid in Bitcoin, the cost to him was, I believe, £2.38. So you can see it's gone from £30 right down to £2.38. And he was very happy because there was near instant confirmation. We're talking a matter of minutes. And two, the whole process was online and done, where he could see it was transparent, and three, we were confident that we've received the funds. So it was a no-brainer. We would always recommend anybody outside of a jurisdiction to use crypto. It's just easier, transparent, faster.
Yes, and that is why I personally prefer to transact in digital currency than in fiat. Having worked in bank in the past, then I agree with you. Now, another question. This is from my side, and after that, we return to the standard questions. The companies, the projects that would contact you in order to start receiving the crowdfunding services, do they have to be registered in the UK, or these are companies scattered all over the world?
Well, preferably in the UK from a due diligence point of view, it's certainly easier. And we do like to meet with the companies. So we do like to have people come and sit in our office and have a conversation with them. But no, it doesn't restrict them. We have had companies from Switzerland, Australia, Canada, and we are looking at a few African projects at the moment. The only country that we don't accept at this moment in time is the United States of America, and that's for insurance purposes. I'm sure everybody's aware of the SEC and sort of their requirements. So elsewhere, absolutely fine. We will look at the structures, but preferably in the UK. I think for foreign companies, the question is, why are you raising capital in the UK? If you are looking to expand here, or the consumer base is here in the UK, then there's certainly a reason as to why to work with Crowd for Angels. If there isn't a link, then it becomes a little bit of a grey area or a talking point.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Perfect. I understand. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, at the beginning, I know we already spoke about a little bit about venture capitals and crowdfunding, but what was the problem that you foresaw and motivated you and your colleagues to start this project?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think you've been seeing it for the past few years. There's past decade really since the 2008 financial crisis. Capital to young companies or startups has effectively dried up. It's not a growing market in the traditional financial markets. People can't go to banks anymore with a business plan and expect a loan. And the government here in the UK, they weren't really doing very much. So there are some pioneers in the space, people like Crowdcube that really started to push the envelope out there and allow people to invest small amounts in companies and via a technical means. I mean, investing has changed. It used to be on paper and now it's on an Excel spreadsheet as such. So that's one of the problems that we've tried to resolve. But the background of the company is mainly accountancy. The founder, Tony de Nazareth, he owned a private equity firm that did a lot of investments into startups. And he thought there could have been a better way because he was investing his own capital, VC capital, alongside his own capital. But you needed customers, It's no good just raising money. The companies needed customers, people to buy the products or at least be enthused about the products. I think that's where crowdfunding benefited from. And the problem we tried to solve is not only did you have a line of finance, you also had this line of consumers ready to buy the product when you're ready to go. And that sort of created this harmony, this marriage. And what you've then seen is businesses being catapulted really into the stars because not from day one, but from year one or year two, they suddenly got thousands of customers that not only own a piece of the business, but also transact with the business. For instance, one of my investments was into the bank Monzo. I'm sure many people have heard about that in the UK. It's also expanding into the US. But when that went to Crowdcube back in 2015 or 14, and I could invest £10, absolutely I did. And now I bank with them. And it's that sort of allegiance, that brand advocacy that I think we were trying to solve. Technically, we were also looking from an accountancy point of view what we could improve. So things like a share price, they didn't exist on crowdfunding platforms before we came. And I know that sounds crazy, and believe me, it was. But in 2014, you didn't purchase a number of shares. You simply committed an amount of capital. And then the divisions happened afterwards. We actually changed that model on its head to more like a stock market model, whereby, I could buy 100 shares at £1 and that would cost me £100. And that, I think, has also changed the landscape of crowdfunding because now you'll go to any platform and you'll see that model. There's a defined share price at which you transact, so you know what you're buying. And I think that's fascinating that we're trying to look at taking a stock market model that's really only for these huge companies and bring it down to the private startup and have that liquidity available.
Okay, thank you for that. Very interesting. Now, let's jump back into the token that you spoke about.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. How does a token get involved in the whole project and the ecosystem?
Yes, I mean, maybe it was a little bit of the hype of the ICO days. For two reasons we wanted to do it. One was knowledge. I mean, there was always a reason to use a token to engage customers. We saw it more like a nectar point. If anybody's heard of Sainsbury's here, they'll know what that is. But it was a reward token. So it was a way of rewarding people for not only interacting with content, but investing, etc. So it wasn't designed, if you will, to unlock any gates or be a security. It's not represent a bond, etc. We merged that also with a bond. So actually, rather than just giving it away for free, which we did, and we do have something like 13,000 holders of the Angel token, we also merged it with a bond. So we took a regular bond, 5-year term, and we said to individuals, look, if you invest in this, you can get hold of this token as well. And that was a way to engage the non-crypto users, those more traditional people that were looking for a fixed return product to this new growing area, and to engage with them, just to communicate with them how crypto worked, how the blockchain worked, what an Ethereum wallet was, what Bitcoin was, etc. And we had individuals that were very young, 20 somethings, who knew crypto but didn't know about traditional finance, now investing in the bond and learning a little bit more about fixed terms, interest payments, collateral, etc. And we had pardon.
Sorry for interrupting. Was this bond a corporate bond?
Yes, to crowdfund.
Yours.
Yes. We used it to reinvest in other bonds. So it had we didn't actually have the finance person, that we actually just reinvested in bonds on the Crowdfunding platform as a sort of mixed risk ratio. But what we also saw is traditional investors. And I mean, we had for instance, a gentleman that was 83 who invested in the bond because he wanted the fixed income for his pension, who then learned about crypto and then took the time to learn how to open an Ethereum wallet, who then received, I think, about 20,000 Angel tokens. And he went on that journey. Of course, I'm not saying that he's now an avid crypto user, but he understands the space a little bit more. He, if I was to have a conversation with him today about Bitcoin, he could probably tell me where it is in terms of the market cap, what it's doing in the market, regulations coming. So you're trying to blend those two elements, which is young individuals that don't know traditional finance, old individuals that don't know new finance.
So old school meets new school and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we found, which was fascinating, was that the new school, these sort of crypto investors, they would invest the minimum amount, the £100, but they were so diverse in a crowd. They were from Vietnam, France, Australia. They were just so diverse that the conversations we were having at the time was just, it was elating. It was so exciting to look on the platform at any time and just see hundreds of people looking at a pitch, reading the information and interacting with us. And just to clarify, the first bond that we did through that, so a bond with the token attached, repaid about 2 months ago, repaid in full. So the individuals who invested, they got their coupon payments each year, and they've just been repaid their capital, plus they got the Angel tokens. So it's worked out, I hope, very well for them. And that's what we set out to do, was to demonstrate that it could be done in a manner that, again, builds that trust.
Okay. What about this? Was the token somehow linked to the bond, to the bond's performance, or was it more as a standalone reward token?
So it wasn't linked to the bond's performance. We weren't going to pay coupons in the cryptos. I think at that stage, security tokens were very young. But what we did do, or what we agreed to do, was that each time we made a new bond on the Crowdfunding platform, part of the fee that we received, so the company would pay us a fee in fiat, we would buy back Angel tokens from the market. And that was just a way to create some sort of liquidity cycle for users. And there is a Uniswap page where we buy back, and we are the liquidity provider to that Uniswap page for those holders of Angel tokens. And that's what we continue to do. So if we do a bond on the platform, a percentage of our fee we go and buy back from the market, and just keep that cycle circular.
And what is the plan for the future with the token?
That's a good question. I mean, back when we launched it, it was quite experimental, and we said that to everybody, that we were still in a learning phase. Quite frankly, because it was an ERC20 token, the transaction fees have put a hold to that project. I've been looking at bridges to different chains, whether that's the BSC chain or the Solana chain, etc., Mina chain. But we haven't decided yet. I think many of us who are Ethereum advocates, I do like Ethereum, I must admit, has we've been waiting for this rollout of V2. I know people have different names for it, but we've been waiting for this rollout of V2 and see if that would impact the transaction cost. If the transaction cost could reduce significantly, then opening up that model for more use would make sense. There are options out there. For instance, we could look at converting Angel tokens into another token on a different chain, or as I said, we could look at a bridge to a different chain to allow people the freedom of movement at a reasonable cost, because that's the problem at this moment in time, is the cost to transact is too high to provide, I guess, value to the underlying holder, and that's not what we want. The last thing I want is somebody to interact with our token and spend $10 doing so. That's absolutely against what I believe.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. But if you already have the coin, then it seems like it went very good to have it as a reward coin together with your bond. Seems people appreciated that, and two different target audiences learned from it. So that might give you a chance for keep exploring that.
Yes, yeah, it's an area I find personally fascinating. And as I said, initially it was when you could send a transaction for 3 cents, 5 cents, etc. We would do things like, here's a guide to blockchain, and we'd go to the individuals that don't know about crypto, and we would say, look, download this guide, put in your, open a wallet, and we'll send you a couple hundred tokens just to get you started. And you saw the demand for things like that really ramp up, but that again was targeted at traditional finance individuals. And so it's looking at not just marketing, but how we could disseminate knowledge amongst the community in a way that made sense.
Okay, great. I have two questions. The first one is, we spoke before about your company, venture capital company, and so on. Now, from what I've seen, there are other crowdfunding web pages there. Some of them are dedicated or linked with blockchain, some are not. But what is the difference with Crowd for Angels and the other ones? What makes you different? What's your differentiator?
Oh, what's our unique selling point, USP? It's a terrible question, isn't it? From my point of view, as a regulated entity, there aren't that many, or I don't know of any regulated entities at this moment in time that are really in the blockchain space or offering this sort of payment in crypto. So that's always been one of my focuses, is to have that foot in the door, if you will, and that allows us to talk to the financial regulators, the HMRC, for instance.
So it's like a license. What do you have?
Yes, but also to say, look, you shouldn't be ignoring or hitting the heads of people looking to explore the blockchain world, because that's what we find at this moment. And if you talk to individuals, they say the consensus is that regulators don't like crypto. Well, let's try and change that argument or change that tone of conversation and say, look, there's a great opportunity here. So we have that sort of USP that since 2016, as I said, we've been accepting payments. I've had the FCA in my office in 2017, and I showed them how payments worked and how they can be reported on, etc., and how everything can sort of follow their standards, if you will. The other USP that I think makes us slightly different is we are essentially human. A lot of people believe crowdfunding is a very execution-only service, and if you hear me out, you'll understand why. It's because they go to a website, they fill in an application, they build the pitch, and they go live, but they never really talk to anyone. They just, if they need support, there's a support ticket system, or there might be an email, but there's never a phone number, there's never a live chat. And I wanted to get rid of that from day one. That wasn't what I wanted for the business. And so we've always met with companies. I mean, we were, prior to COVID, we'd met with 99% of companies in our office. We've always had a live chat available, and I love the idea of people being able to come on and just ask frank questions, quite frankly, whether they're comfortable or not comfortable in some cases. And there's always been a phone number. My email address is publicly available on the website, and I will always answer somebody, even if it's 11 o'clock at night. Because as a startup ourselves or a young company, I know when you want an answer, you don't want to wait 3 to 5 or 10 days. You want the answer. You want to know it now. And in some ways, I wish we could get a little bit quicker. I think our average time to answer at the moment is about 7 minutes. And I know 7 minutes doesn't sound that long, but still 7 minutes feels like a long time to wait when you're really, if you're submitting a form, for instance, 7 minutes is horrendously long. So we've always had that element where there's a human, and I think we shouldn't get rid of that. Whether you run a DeFi platform, you run an exchange or anything, there should always be individuals behind it. We're not trying to replace humans. AI can come, but it shouldn't replace the friendly face that talks to you. And that's something that I think is our biggest USP. And a lot of the conversations I have with companies and why they choose to come with Crowd for Angels, even if we are a little bit more expensive or if we're a little bit smaller than a competitor, is because they can speak to someone. They can have their concerns answered, they can have their questions answered, etc. And we do go a bit above and beyond. For instance, I had a company just yesterday. He posted a link on LinkedIn and he was talking about the display. And we came up with a change to the metadata on his pitch page, just so the image would display slightly different for his LinkedIn. And I mean, the fact that he was able to come straight to the CEO, we had a conversation. I've spoken to the social media marketing manager, then we've spoken to the development team. We're able to put that solution forwards for him. I think's wonderful, and that I hope that's something we give back to the sort of ecosystem.
Oh no, great, fantastic. I would still like to go a little bit deeper into the regulations because I'm always really interested in what kind of regulations there are for crowdfunding. However, due to time, I think I will not be able to, and I think our viewers will be interested in the other type of questions, namely, where in your web page would people be able to see the projects they can invest in?
That's a good question. The easiest way is if they just go onto the homepage, hover over investors, there should be open investments there. And if they click on there, they should be able to see all the projects. As well on the homepage, there are banners at the top that mention a couple of the projects. I think we have a bond on there at the moment, and then there is a motorcycle company. Oh, you'll see in the tax relief scheme. There is a motorcycle company coming on, I believe, Monday, White Motorcycle Concepts. So they are coming. There's different projects, but again, they can find most things on the homepage. If they can't, on the left-hand side where you see all them social media icons, there is a live chat. So feel free just to say hello, and one of my team will tell you where to go.
Okay, but otherwise they would have to press on companies, right?
No, investors. Investors,
okay.
Open opportunities, open investments, current investments. There you go. I should know my website better than that.
This was a test.
It was a test. You can see I'm looking at different things all the time.
Current investments. Okay, and there we are. Seller Hub. Okay, and here are the details. And you mentioned that the minimum amount that they have to count with is, if I remember correctly, I said it 20 pounds?
25. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the minimum the platform sets. Individual projects can set it a little higher. And it also depends on the share price. So if the share price isn't divisible by 25, then we have to consider that as well.
Okay, very interesting. And once again, to our viewers, you can find more information. The webpage is crowdforangels.com, as you can see below on the screen. And as we mentioned, as Andrew said, you will have to go up to investors, and the first menu point, current investments, is that where you'll be able to see the information. And I also assume that if there would be any new company out there that would like to enter the UK market, then they can get in contact with you.
Absolutely.
And see the possibilities in order for them to attract new investors.
You are more than welcome to reach out to me, and there's lots of information for companies on the companies tab, including about digital securities. I know people are interested in digital securities.
Okay, perfect. Now, another question, and this gonna be, I know it's hard. I would like to know a little bit about the roadmap for Crowd for Angels. And with the with the current market situation, it's hard to know what's going to happen in 1 year from now. but but if you could wish, where would you wish to be in 3 years from now?
Very, very good. Well, funnily enough, I'm slightly closer because of our work with regulators and things of that nature. I think in terms of the market, there's two areas that are improving. So firstly, we are starting to see restrictions around multilateral trading facilities. And I know most people won't know what that means, but it's the buy and sell functions of secondary markets, very similar to a stock exchange, are becoming slightly reduced. So that just means that platforms like Crowd for Angels will be able to offer more effective secondary market solutions for companies, and that will, allow hundreds of thousands of small companies effectively to trade their shares in a cost-efficient manner. The market's really been locked out at the moment, and it's. I think in the next 3 years, that's really going to explode, and it's something that we've been pushing for since 2016-17. And hopefully in the next 3 years, I would love to see, just hundreds, if not thousands of small companies being able to buy and sell their shares to different individuals across the ecosystem.
It's like a brokerage service?
Like a brokerage, but again, execution only. So if I'm an individual and I want to buy some shares in a small company that I know of, but the world doesn't know about, and somebody is selling, I have a chance to buy them. And I think that's coming to the forefront. In terms of, so that's number one. The second area I'd love to see, and I think we are pushing more into, is digital securities. I think in 2018, when people started talking about security tokens, the market wasn't there, the regulations weren't there, but we are seeing, indicators from the US, the UK, Europe, Asia, that regulations to the market are coming. And I think actually they're going to be in line with traditional finance, which means that we can start issuing assets on the blockchain, such as shares, bonds, ventures, etc., and really allowing cross-border trade. And I think that's going to be the exciting part for somebody like me, who at the moment, my shares are in a filing cabinet. Being able to put my shares on the blockchain and allowing anybody to transact with that secondary market, it allows the stakeholders to move around. It allows those conversations to happen, but it gives that transparency, because right now that's the missing element of trust. And I don't know if anybody here watches Netflix. I do like Netflix a lot. There's a few on there, like the Anna story at the moment, talking about these special relationships of high society and banks, and how they can get access to capital, whereas the normal Joe in the street can't. And when we have this more transparent model on the blockchain, whereby you can see how many shares a company has issued and how many wallets hold them, that's gonna be revolutionary. I really believe that. I think it's time's up to hide these things. No longer can you stick your assets in Panama and run away. It's time to really invigorate the sector and go into a new industry. It's gonna be exciting.
For this, you would need another type of license, right?
So yes and no. The MTF licenses are changing to benefit crowdfunding as a whole, I believe. So we wouldn't need to change our licensing there. The issuance of digital assets, the jury's out at the moment. I would say a digital asset is just represented by a real world asset. So no, I don't think you do. But regulators are looking at specific regulations for that. Again, our license are quite varied, so quite wide. And I'm fairly confident in what we have can deliver those two solutions in the next 3 years. We are actually changing our licenses, as a matter of fact, but that's for cost revenue purposes rather than anything else.
Okay, great. I understand. Yeah, no, that would be fantastic if you guys can pull that up. I haven't seen that yet.
Yes, I mean there are struggles in that space, and I think it just comes back down to those control features. You know, if someone's shares got transferred to somebody's wallet without their knowledge, or by bad actors, for instance, how can you move them back? How can you counteract that movement? Really, that's the difficult question. I think there aren't any solutions at this moment, but we'll get there. I guarantee we will get there.
Yeah, how things are moving so fast nowadays. Yeah, not surprised that in a couple of weeks you already see something like this.
Oh yeah. And I would say the final thing, just to end on a positive note, stable coins. I would say in the next 12 months, they are really going to become, a powerhouse. I know people talk about central banking digital currencies, CBDCs. I would like to see third-party stable coins remain. And I think, even though Tether might not be as transparent as we would all like to see, they are making steps in the right direction to prove that there's viability in the industry and provide comfort and control to government, which I think
they're the most popular one, right?
Yeah, they're about 90 billion in value in total. And again, I think they're also hampered slightly by the Ethereum market, but people use USDT mainly on exchanges at the moment, which is fine because you don't have that issue. Once we can get over that gas issue, I think the market will really expand.
Yeah, that's very interesting. From what I've seen, the way that people would move digital assets across different exchanges, they mainly would do it with USDT. And another interesting thing, at least with the projects that I've been interviewing, is that they would pay their employees in USDT. So that's the number one currency choice of employees.
So there you go. I think I'll take Bitcoin or Ethereum. Bitcoin mainly. Give me Bitcoin. I'm happy to take it.
Great. Andrew, fantastic having you here. It's been really insightful. Love the ideas. Great project. I'm sure our viewers also are going to start visiting your website. So you might have a couple of questions coming from their side.
Fabulous.
And do you have any final words for the viewers today?
Yeah, as I said, I think if I was going to summarize, the world is opening up. It's democratizing, and we are seeing the individual, the smaller player now being put forward on the stage. And anyone, you, me, the person listening to this, can make a difference. So don't feel like if you had a project, there's no doors open to you. There's always a door. You just have to open it or track it down and speak to someone. And if you have any questions, regardless of how silly they might sound, feel free to ask them. Because even if I can't help you, there's always someone in my network that should be able to help, or I can find somebody who can help. And that's how we build these relationships going forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that feedback, Andrew. Fantastic. We would love to have you again on the show as soon as you have any development on one of those great ideas that you forecasted. It'll be fantastic if you can show it to us. And thank you for being with us. To our viewers, thank you very much for your time. And then we'll see you at the next show, and stay safe until then. Have a great day, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Xavier. Have a wonderful day.